get this started. All right, with the recordings. All right, so again, welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us for today's MicroAge Talks Technology webinar. My name is Maria Fiore. I'm the Director of Operations here at MicroAge, and I'm joined by our special guests, not just one, but two. James Welburn, who's the BDM for Microsoft 365 at SureWeb, and Jermaine Clark, who is the lead for Copilot, Modern Work, and Dynamics 365 at SureWeb as well. So welcome, James and Jermaine.
Thank you, Maria. Happy to be here.
Thanks so much.
Good. I'm sure you're all aware, but just in case, today's conversation will focus on what's new with Microsoft 365 Copilot. Before we begin, here are a few housekeeping notes. So attendees are muted to reduce background noise. I'm sure you've all figured that out already. We encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation by using the questions panel of the webinar tool, and we'll try to answer as many of them as possible. We held this webinar in French this morning, and there was a lot of questions, and we couldn't get to all of them. So just keep them coming, and the MicroAge location will closest to you will reach out and answer any questions we don't get to. The webinar is being recorded, and the link to the recording will be sent to everyone a little bit later today. In that same email, you will be receiving a link to to download the ebook we are making available. We encourage you to download that ebook and re-listen to the recording or share the links with colleagues that may benefit from today's information. Lastly, at the end of the webinar, you'll be receiving a short 3-question survey to gather your feedback. Please take a moment to share your feedback with us so we can improve future webinars. So just before I pass this on to James and Jermaine, I'm going to take a moment to give you a brief overview of who MicroAge is for those who may not know us. So we are a Canadian technology service provider with 40 locations across Canada. We've been providing IT services and solutions to our clients for 44 years. We strongly believe that to be a true partner, we need to understand your organizations. We need to understand your operations, your clients, your people, your goals, your challenges, your opportunities. All of these things will help us to recommend and provide the IT services and solutions that are right for you. And so it's a quick overview of who we are and how we engage with our clients. So James, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, I'll gladly get us going, and thank you so much, Maria, for the intro, and to all of you again for carving some time out here to spend a short bit of time with us here as we look over this new and amazing thing we call Microsoft Copilot for 365. For the next hour or so, in the time that we have together, we'll look a little bit as to what Microsoft Copilot is, how you can go about applying or adopting this into your day-to-day, into your organization. And then finally, some tips and tricks in terms of getting started, some resources as well that we will be able to share following the event today. So without further ado, we will jump right in and really start talking about Copilot and just kind of zooming out as we get started here as to what Copilot really means for you or for us as we think of Copilot as our individual AI assistant for work. So really the beauty of it and what sets Microsoft Copilot for 365 aside or apart from some of the other consumer type brands or AI machines out there is the ability to have this tool integrated into your apps. So long be the days of copying from your emails into insert third-party unauthorized vendor here and then pasting it back into your emails. Well, Microsoft has actually built Copilot right into Outlook. So you'll actually be able to have summaries, be able to reply with the context of the entire thread, not just a snippet of the last reply, but really understand what we're doing and in the context of our own individual work. So for instance, my Copilot, Maria's Copilot, and Jermaine's Copilot all act a little bit differently based on the context of our roles, our colleagues, our communications, hierarchy, etc. But they really are tailored to me or to Maria or to Jermaine. And this makes it, again, really so special. If we think of AI and I were to ask, let's say, ChatGPT of, hey, help me to plan my day. Well, it could, and it will say, well, James, what do you have? Tell me about your kids, what's for lunch, who's doing pickup and drop off duty for the children today. which could be, and it certainly can be practical in a personal context. But in the context of work is what we're focusing here, and what really where we'll see the greatest benefits is, well, what do I have on the docket for today? Well, I do get to meet with a few great partners. I do get to connect with all of you via this presentation here, training, follow-up, and subsequent sale meetings. But really, again, this is in the context of what James is up to today professionally. So keeping that grounded, keeping that data relevant, and keeping me focused really on what I get to do here. If you look at the M365 product itself, the benefit, again, another one of the benefits here is that there's so much all looped in. This is a little bit how it all comes together. So really, we can start by looking at the web. Again, this is going to be very similar to the ChatGPT of the world, albeit very secure, right? So this is something that's potentially lacking on the consumer versions of these other AI models, is that the data that we put into these models will actually be used to train the model. So me asking a question about my organization's financials may potentially enlighten your response from said LLM by using some of my data, my strategy, etc. So we want to keep all this very secure. Obviously, I think all of you here in business in some way, shape, or form, this proprietary information is crucial. It's ours, and Microsoft really takes that to heart. Much like how we have this trust with Excel, and we can trust to put our financials or run our data through there in Power BI. Copilot adopts that same type of framework and really helps to make sure that my data is my data, not any or everybody else's. So a really great starting point for anyone looking to get into AI securely, and again, in a professional manner. And then we move over to the real magic again here when we start to think of it built into our apps. So it's not copying and pasting from one to another. It really is built into my PowerPoint. I can ask AI to help me develop a PowerPoint presentation, to review financials in Excel, to help me develop ebooks, marketing strategies, or other in Word. So all of this can be done, again, embedded into the tools that we already use every day, and with access to that information. So that's where we see the Microsoft graph here. It really is everything that I've received via email, via chat, any meetings I've been a part of. All of this data exists in my Microsoft tenant, everything that I, as an individual, have access to at least. And now Microsoft Copilot can actually make very informed and more pertinent suggestions or outputs based on James's context of work. Likewise for Maria and Jermaine for their respective Copilots. But wait, there's more, dare I say. So we definitely have all of this built into the Copilot for 365 experience. But then if we didn't want to create custom Copilots, so we can really make our own or a dedicated purpose-built Copilot for our team, well, Copilot Studio is the way that we can go about that. A really popular example with this would be an HR Copilot. So this would mean that instead of me reaching out to HR to say, how many days do I have left off this year? It's getting nice and I want to go enjoy some of it. Well, now I can actually just inquire into this Copilot, this HR Copilot, and it'll take into account that I'm James. I've been with the company for 6 years. Here's my department. And it'll actually give me a more specific response, again, taking into account the context. So alleviating time from HR teams in this scenario, but a very scalable solution, again, that can be used across your entire organization and even externally for customers. Oh, and really why we say this is the way, and you see my subtle jab at the other AI or consumer products out there, it is a security. I appreciate my data. I have, and my company, my team, my organization have put a lot of work and invested heavily into the data that we do have. Well, just sharing it out there and sharing it with anyone competing or otherwise, perhaps isn't the best practice. So here again with Microsoft, the stack of products here, we can actually set parameters. So for instance, I wouldn't be able to see the HR files and find out how much my colleagues are getting paid or anything, maybe more sensitive that's really destined for HR personnel only. Well, they can actually have policies and labels that'll prevent me from being able to leverage that information, one, myself as an individual, and as importantly, my own Copilot, because Copilot really does inherit my existing permissions. It won't go rogue and see stuff James shouldn't have access to, or really only access what I as an individual can access. And similarly to Jermaine, he's as my leader, so he presumably has additional access and view into things that I might not. And again, that's all very well respected here within the confines of the Microsoft stack. When we started thinking of the compliance as well, so and you'll hear us mention the security here, and it's why we're starting actually at this stage, is that we don't want to give our Copilot access to an environment that isn't yet ready, that hasn't already gone through some sort of audit, or at least have a very good understanding of your data and who has access to it. Are people changing departments? Is James formerly from HR and now in sales, and I can still see all the pay stubs? Maybe we have to pin this down before, because again, once I get access to Copilot, my Copilot's going to be able to consume all that data and be able to respond or provide me output based on my access. So keeping everything buttoned down, getting ready from a security standpoint is always going to be our first suggestion here. We want Copilot to be a good experience, not a surprising experience in the negative sense there, but really one that is very controlled. A quick analogy from one of our colleagues here. We think of getting a new puppy, you're getting a new dog coming to your house, and the puppy gets in. First thing it might do is see a remote that you have lying on the floor, and that puppy is going to go and start to nibble and gnaw on that remote. He's a puppy, it's so cute, and we're going to laugh, but we're also going to have to go find a new remote. To get ahead of that though, what we can do is clean up our remotes, right? Take the chewables off the floor. Anything of value that's maybe sensitive, we want to get that away from the puppy, right? So we want to get that secured, buttoned down. Then we bring our puppy in. Amazing puppy experience. Mess. We won't discuss the mess right now. So that's the same concept we're going to look at here with Copilot, is get your identity governance in order, have a strategy there. Your device management, external threats, make sure your environment is safe and secure. And then finally managing the data that goes along with it. So anything you have in terms of your employee handbook, for example, having 10 versions of it may confuse Copilot to start to inquire. So always having a single source of truth will just help to ensure that you get the most relevant and most adequate output from your own Copilot.
So we do have a question, and I keep saying Kathy, but I could be wrong. It's Karhi, maybe. Anyway, I'm sorry if I'm mistaking your name. But the question is, can Copilot mine my calendar on a monthly basis to extract hours of service to clients that should be billed to that client, sort of by client, and prepare in a predefined invoice template?
So the answer to that, and I'll take a quick question there. Great question, by the way. It certainly
and it's
can.
Kathy. We've confirmed that it's Kathy.
Confirmed it's Kathy. Perfect. So Kathy, thank you for bringing that up. You 100% can, as long as the meetings were scheduled or the time that you spent with that customer was scheduled and put into your calendar in a way that you can identify the partner. Their email address is in there or the name of the company is in there. Then you can tell Copilot that I'd like to see all of the completed meetings in the last 30 days, 60 days, whatever you want. And you would like it to be, the output to be presented in table format, showing name of the persons that attended the meeting, total number of people, duration of the meeting, things like that. So ideally, everything that you have can be pulled from that calendar, as long as you're able to prompt Copilot in the correct manner to retrieve that data.
Thanks for the question, Kathy. She
Do we
says
have a
thank you.
thumbs up? Perfect.
Awesome. Yeah, and keep those coming. That was great. Again, Kathy, that was great. And for everyone here, this is the stuff that that makes these events super fun, at least on this side of the screen. So yeah, keep those coming. It's all so valid, right? It's also new. There's many of us still wrapping our heads around the potential, really, of what the Copilot is today and what it will be, which is even more exciting. But again, thank you for that. So we were just talking about the security there and really making sure our house is in order, so to speak, to accept this new friend, this new assistant into what we get to do. We're going to see, and you're going to hear from our colleagues at MicroAge here across the board. Business Premium, when we start to look at the SMB market, Business Premium is going to be our hero motion, so to speak. It's going to be the license that we'll recommend more often than not. So the other licenses, basic and standard, are still great. There's still great value there, not to put them down whatsoever. But modern times call for modern solutions. Modern solutions do absolutely include identity protection, device governance and management, and information protection as importantly. Business Premium does have all that value baked right into it. The prices we see on the screen here, although it says CAD, these are actually in USD. So it's roughly $30 for Business Premium per user per month, and about $18 on Business Standard, and just about $8 or $9 if memory serves on Business Basic. So pricing aside, value is what we're looking at mainly, and that security benefit is often why. Nothing to do with the dollars, it really is the value that we want to see included into your environment, to your tenant. And there are three, and there's a lot more value here, but at a really high level, we start to look at the identity governance. So being able to ensure that it really is James, really logging in from the right device and accessing data that for which James is allowed. This is going to be a condition that we're going to want to have enacted in our environments. Conditional access does find itself in Business Premium. There are add-ons we can have absolutely to get this available as part of a Business Standard, or to add on to Business Standard. But the total value of the product, and when you start doing the add-on for identity and add-on for device management, you'll often find that these add-ons will often surpass the cost of a Business Premium. So again, the best value that we lead with here is the best. The thing we suggest to our friends, quite honestly, is the thing I do suggest to my friends. It's the most complete bang for your buck. The device,
and that's something to consider.
Yeah, please.
I was going to say something to consider with this. Everything that we're showing you today is available within the licensing, but as an end user, typically you wouldn't see that yourself. Your support team through your MicroAge network would then go ahead and work with on the back end to make sure that those things are in place for you, because it does require that they go in and look at what is applicable to your environment and add that licensing that will allow you to do it, and then configure it on your behalf, which is important, especially because everyone in their own industry has their own compliance requirement. They have their own user documentation, and this only works the best when you use collaboratively. All your data is in the cloud and in the space that you can use the security as well as use the AI. So just to keep that in your minds percolating as we kind of move forward through the presentation, we'll give you a little bit more information on, well, when I think about this, can this affect my server that I have locked in a closet? Not in the same way as it would had you completed your migration to, say, Microsoft 365 Cloud over the last little while.
Yeah, it's super valid. Yeah, it's almost like an insurance policy. If you don't see it, it's a good thing. And that's kind of what a lot of this security that we'll see on the screen here is that it is value that you need, whether you live and see it and feel it in everything you do, to some extent, surely, but we'll try and lessen that burden, or at least find what the balance is for you, again, as every organization is slightly different. The final part, and again, if we look at the endpoint management really quickly there, so just protecting against threats, ensuring only authorized devices are on there, and even setting controls. So this is one that we actually have enacted as part of our team. Where is it? So we'll actually be able to, oh, I thought it was on the slide, I'm sorry. There's actually a feature within Intune here, we can actually prevent, let's say a user like myself from taking a screenshot of any company related data that might find itself onto my own personal device, for which it may fall out of the purview of the organization. So you can actually have these types of restrictions as well. So now just protecting who is accessing, you're protecting how this information is being accessed. And then finally, the data security and compliance side here, if we think of Microsoft Purview, well, now it is which information should James have access to? So we saw the who, we saw the how, and now it is the what. Essentially, what data do I have access to? Do I see pay files and acquisition plans for the organization? at a top level, like presumably and hopefully not, quite honestly. This should all be restricted. So again, back to that puppy example, getting our house in order beforehand. If not all of this is hitting home to you just yet, again, do connect with your MicroAge team. If there is a real need in your business to have these policies applied, they'll certainly walk you through it. I do believe that sensitivity labels are kind of a bare minimum for any type of modern posture here, along with all the retention and audit logs that exist within the suite. So again, do reach out to your colleagues here. They'll look at it on a case by case. There's no one size fits all. But I guess as a generalization in SMB, we'll definitely say business premium has the most bang for your buck in terms of what's really needed. All right, so step one, if we think of our kind of journey on the way over here to Copilot, step one is getting your house in order, having a good governance strategy, policies, check-ins, reviews, and again, this can all be ironed out with our friends here at MicroAge. All this is for an eventual deployment and use and really reaping the benefits of AI in our work. This AI obviously here today is called Copilot for 365, and this is found in a variety of our applications. Sorry, I thought I heard a question there. So we could find it. I guess my favorite, if I had to pick maybe three, gosh, it's hard. My three here would probably be within Teams. I think it's just amazing what we can do in terms of meeting recaps. I'll show you a quick sample of that here in just a moment. Similarly in Outlook, what a time saver, what an ability to understand and scour very convoluted threads at times, and to simplify that, and even to help me generate the base, at least, of a really good reply, taking into account all the context for which my Copilot had.
On that note, I feel like, it's always nice to explain something. They said pictures worth 1,000 words. But maybe we should do a little bit of walkthroughs. What do you think? Would that be useful for our guests today? Kind of have a couple of examples make sense with a very nicely prepared example, I would like to say as well. How about we kick a couple of those off and kind of showcase a couple of your favorites, because again, they are your favorites, and it would be nice for us to show them off. And don't mind, I'll do a nice voiceover for you and kind of run through a couple.
Absolutely. So here we go. So we'll start off with prioritizing our inbox and Outlook.
So Outlook's one of my favorites, and it's good that we had that question earlier from Kathy, if I remember correctly. So when we think about Outlook, your question was against your calendar. Thinking about Outlook and email, if you've ever gone in and organized your email yourself, you know that you have to go and make a rule in the old Outlook and figure out which email address it's coming from, etc., to figure out how you want to process that. Well, now, if you're thinking about this and you have a favorite person or a favorite company that you work with is high priority on your list, as a user, you can say, hey, Copilot, how about you make all the emails coming in from this person have this color or be put into this specific inbox? And based on that, it'll actually do that for you without you having to do it yourself. And it'll prioritize your inbox based on anything. You just need to tell Copilot what it is, and it'll run through.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's definitely a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, Teams. Like, look, we do Microsoft Teams for those of us that are embedded in the Microsoft space. We all did Zoom before. We do GoToWebinar. We have all these things out there, Cisco WebEx. The real clincher here is no matter which application you were using in the past, you still had to finish your meeting, get out of the meeting, go type up all your notes, sort of remember and hopefully got the action items right, and then not assign them to the wrong people coming out of that conversation. And if you had 6 meetings in a day, like we love to do to ourselves now, you're doing this either before work the next day or at the end of the week, trying to wrap up and put your head back to what was I doing on Wednesday at 2 o'clock to give the right context and answers. Now, with your intelligent recap and the AI and Copilot, in the actual meeting, you can say, well, based on what's happening right now, have I covered all the bullet points? Are we hitting the points of the agenda? Are people paying attention? And do I have all of the notes related to the meeting? You come out of a meeting with Copilot, you have all that information, and now you can review it instead of typing it all up and send it off to your customer. maybe 2 minutes after the meeting is concluded. Just think about that for yourselves. If I got off of a call with you as my customer and I'd just given you all this great information and you were ready for the roll up, the excitement's still there, and then 5 minutes later you see an email pop into your inbox that not only has all the information, but the context, who's available, who are the persons that were speaking, and also here are your action items. Maria's going to follow up on this, James is going to follow up on that. And it's all prepared for you and you get to send that off right away. That feeling of this was very important, I got all the information I needed, now I can take my time going through it. Very important. So big favorite of mine.
Yeah, I'll add a really quick tidbit to that. And, sorry, do you have was there a question, Maria?
I was going to say we're in Outlook, and Kathy has 2 more questions, so go ahead, James, and then I'll ask the questions.
Yeah, I'll go super quick. So to Jermaine's point, that is such a weight off our shoulders. I am the person who will subject himself to too many meetings in a day. And Jermaine's entirely right. At the end of my day previously was, oh my gosh, what did I say at 9? So that's having this recap is huge. What more, and you can even see it here on the Copilot section over here, is that we can actually go back and dig into this data. So not only do we get the summary, which is, again, infinitely convenient and efficient, but now I can actually go and say, hey, can you break this down? Like, what ideas had we discussed? Tell me the pros and cons. Who had said what? What were the counter arguments to said proposal or idea, right? So now you can really dive into that. And even one that I use it, I'm in a sales role, I'll go back and say, hey, tell me about any buying signs or any type of indication or any opportunity that I left on the table. So I can retroactively, oh, hey, by the way, I also thought of this as I'm sending over my recap, just to wrap things up. So both what you can do with it and what you would have missed, I think is just the other edge of that sword.
Huge, very important.
So a couple of questions from very specific questions, Kathy, but can Copilot calculate the distance between 2 meeting locations and build in a travel time in my work calendar, assuming I provide the locations in my query?
The answer is yes. Should you do it with Copilot? Maybe not. There are a couple of, there are tons of, in the application space, there are tons of Copilot adjacent applications that can work in Copilot. So as an example, if you were to look at your Copilot today, you can turn on things like a LinkedIn application link. You can turn on a flight booking application link, and it's just a toggle and say, hey, I'd like to include this in my Copilot. And when you include it, that particular app is specialized in what you're trying to do. So Copilot would then, you will still query Copilot and say, hey, Copilot, I'd love to plan this route. Tell me how much time should I need to give myself in order to get from route A to route B? And based on that, what time of day should I go? Give me the reference information, and it will then ask that application, and that it'll spit out your answer in Copilot. So yes, you can use it. It will give you answers, yes, but there are, we'll talk about kind of extending your Copilot, adding new things to it. You can then use those plugins to allow Copilot to then be able to process it with high efficiency, so to speak. So lots of good stuff there, very, very specific and awesome questions.
Another question from Kathy as well. Can Copilot check the work-related calendars of colleagues with whom I am trying to schedule a meeting and find one or more times that are available for everyone? My colleagues are all on Outlook, and I know I would need their permission for Copilot to query their calendars. We're just spending too much time on Doodle doing those kind of things. So I think that's available.
So the good news with that is because you have, Outlook has always had a built-in meeting scheduler where you can see who's free at what time. And if you put everybody's name in, it'll identify for you already where the current available time is. So Copilot can read that data. So you don't need additional access to their calendars than you have today. Now, if you don't have that available where you can see the available space in your colleagues' calendars, it won't work. But you do, that is already built into Outlook, and yes, Copilot can read that and tell you, hey, I need to find a meeting time this week for these 7 people, and I need 30 minutes. It'll help you to find that, and it'll tell you suggested slot times. Yeah.
Yeah. Tony asks, hang on if I can get there, can Copilot, I just lost them. Oh, there it is. Can Copilot be connected to party apps such as an ERP?
Yes, right now it's already connected to things like Confluence, Jira. For an ERP itself, depending on what the ERP is, you may need to do a second hop where the data is put into your Microsoft 365 cloud in a specific SharePoint site, and then Copilot reads it from there. But that's more of an access to the data itself, whether or not that ERP has an open API that allows it to connect. So an API is important. As long as it has an API and Copilot can reach to that data, the best case scenario would be to have that API link the data to your SharePoint and then Copilot query your SharePoint, because we don't want to break the security parameters. So if a user doesn't have access to that ERP information, you would want that governed by your Microsoft 365 security rules.
Okay, and one more question before we continue, because we're on Teams. I'm gonna, again, Rain, hopefully I'm saying that properly. Is this feature available on Teams calls or only for scheduled meetings, like the transcript and recording feature in Teams?
So that's something, it is available. You would have to have your MSV configure that at the global level. For ad hoc calls. So anything that isn't in your schedule and you just say, hey, James, can you have 5 minutes to have a quick chat? And you dial that person, you need it, you can configure it at a global level to allow transcription for all of those calls. Yeah, so you can do it. Should you do it at that level? I don't know. In terms of people having too many ad hoc meetings and what they talk about, you don't want transcription be turned on immediately and chew up your space and or give additional information that may not be in work context to Copilot. But that being said, it's 100% doable. But from a security and compliance perspective, probably not recommended. It's low on the recommendations list.
That's a good point, Jermaine. Just going back to the calendars, if somebody is not on the same domain, you know, if you're like outside the organization, that's going to be difficult to do, like to be able to match calendars,
so
right?
What we do for that one is I have a bookings page that is
Right.
Microsoft 365 bookings. Anybody externally can see my calendar and pick a slot. External is a challenge because you don't want ingress and egress, so data going externally for someone else to see your calendar. So that being said, though, in the Microsoft space, if you are a guest in another domain, when you go into that guest account, you guys can exchange calendars in that guest account. But yeah, it doesn't cross domain at this point. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I guess James will move on because yeah, we have a few more slides to get through.
Yeah, a couple of quick ones.
And I'm sure we could
good questions. Thank you. Good questions. So yeah.
That was awesome. Awesome. So one more example, kind of in real time here. So this one is Narrative Builder, probably one of my new favorites here.
So this one's great. We build a lot of presentations in Copilot for our presentations, and what we want to be able to do is take something that you have written already, a concept of information, give Copilot access to it, and say, I would like to do this. Here's what I want to build. Copilot will then create a structure for you, and it will show you, well, here's how your presentation should be structured. Then based on that structure, what it'll do is you can actually edit and delete things that you don't want. You can add in subscripts to it. You can tell it to reference more material from somewhere else. And then all in this kind of presentation coding. And once that's done, you end up with a certified outline of what you want your presentation to look like. And then based on that, when you're happy with it, you say generate slides, and it'll pop all the slides up. And this one's my favorite because this is brand new. It shows you the slides in slide sorter mode, which is nice because then you get to see what each section looks like, how many slides are there. And then by section now you can go through and edit and verify what you want. And then based on that, you've got a full presentation. That took 35 seconds in the video. That's how long it takes in real life, as long as you know what you want to do. And then you can then go and insert different pictures, edit your slides in the Microsoft Designer on that side, and rearrange your slides however you want. So really good, really quick. And this is good for people who do a lot of presenting to, whether you're presenting to your end customers, whether you're launching projects, products, any of it. You can then generate these presentations for your end customer view or for yourselves internally. So very good one. And it gives you the opportunity to edit it in a way that you're capable of seeing what you want and having that, 80% of it done to your liking before you go into editing. So awesome there. That one's definitely going to pump some questions our way.
We take another quick pause, or we're going to jump into agents now? Is there anything? Can't hear you, Maria.
Sorry.
Yeah, Maria.
I mute myself because I'm coughing away. So, but there is another question regarding the while we're talking about ERPs and stuff like that. So Tony says we run a system where our ERP runs on a separate server. Can Copilot integrate with separate ERPs and CRMs through our network? If so, can we toggle access as required?
So the answer is yes. There are connectors that you can connect all of your data and external sources into your SharePoint, so then Copilot can access it. I want to make a demonstration that hopefully, I don't know about everyone else on the webinar. All we're doing is showing a video that's available on the internet right now and is running at maybe half speed. Now, when you think about that, imagine trying to bring data from something that's an older technology external to then have it come in, be reasoned on by the AI, and then go back and forth to searching that data and then being able to spit out information. Yes, it works. Does it work well enough that you'd want to do that? No. If you're like me, we like lightning fast things happening. Every time a new internet speed comes out, I go buy it because I'm like, yes, everything's going to work hard. And then I realize I didn't replace any of the physical infrastructure, so that everything is limited to whatever speed is coming through the physical infrastructure. So it doesn't matter if we increase the speed, it doesn't work. And that's generally where it's at. You can tie anything in as long as it's in center or availability space that you can kind of push it forward and get the right speed. It'll work. The best recommendation again is if that ERP is hosted and you can migrate it to online, your best experience will be there. However, you can 100% do it by attaching data from your external resources into it, and then toggle it on and off which data set you want to address. Which brings us to agents. Agents will then now answer more of that question by saying you can actually create Copilot agents that do something very specific. So instead of going back and toggling access to the external data or the ERP separately, you can actually build a Copilot agent that only does the ERP information. So whenever you go into Copilot, you click on the ERP agent and say, hey, I need this, this, and this information from you. It'll go to the ERP, pull the information you want, do the reasoning, and give you the answer. And agents are built, and they're no code required. Everyone in this call, when we show you how to do it, everyone in this call will be able to do it in 30 seconds because it's a click here, click here, click here, go. And the reason it's getting to that stage is because agents are supposed to be as easy to build as the idea that you just came up with in your head. And you need to be able, as a non-technical user, to build an agent. So the whole purpose of it is, let's think about dentists versus IT people. If you want your teeth pulled, you're not going to go to the IT guys, you're going to go to the dentist. Dentists are specified for pulling a teeth, filling a gap, whatever the situation is, whereas the IT guy is going to help you with your computer. You want to go there for specific job function. That's what a Copilot agent is. It's something that's a same AI, but now it's focused only on a specific topic. And you can then now, with the newest, because we're talking about all the new stuff with Copilot and AI, you can now build an agent that will then do something in a repeated fashion every week. So if you're like me, once a week, I've got a report I have to send out based on information and things that happened during this current week to ensure that my colleagues are up to date before the weekend, et cetera, you can actually build an agent that does that automatically every week, sends you the information, you then review it and send it off. So now it's a task that you had to do, but you don't have to actually do all the labor behind figuring out what happened, where, when, who, what, did, why. Now you can take that information, reason with it with that agent. The agent will give you the end result of which you then review and present to your team members. So it takes away the monotonous work on the back end for things that you do in a repeated function week to week. Onwards.
Did you want to go, Maria?
No, I said excellent. That's
And it is. Yeah, I've been another way that when, and you'll keep me honest here, Jermaine, when I started to definitely explore agents, because I think that the potential is unreal, I kind of had it like this. I said that if I were to think of, let's say, my daughter in elementary school, well, Copilot for 365 would be the school. An agent might be a math teacher. It might be a science teacher, but it's really going to be a lot more specific in terms of its responses, the way it's going to interact with me. So it won't sing me songs when it's giving me back, algebra work, let's say, for a bigger kid one day. Whereas it might if we're doing like a language or an arts agent. So we could really get that additional context and those specific instructions based on the task.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the way you'd want to think about it. It's a good example.
Awesome.
So Kathy says, so the agents would be something like that she could use to do some of the stuff she's been asking about. Is that correct?
Yeah. So
Okay.
some of the stuff that she's been asking about will be 100% that an agent can now build that orchestration to plan her routes. So she can create a route planning agent, and it can say, hey, I've got 15 meetings this week, all are in person. Give me the best route. Who should I meet on Monday, Tuesday? Who should I meet on Wednesday? And what's the best route? And the agent, you just tell it what meetings you have. It'll read your calendar, and it'll tell you where to start and what to do. It'll then go as far as, instead of booking the meetings yourself now, have the agent tell you, okay, you're like, hey, next week I need to meet with these 6 clients. Pull the information and tell me who I'm meeting with on which day and what the best routes are. And the agent will do it for you. So now you've built something that purpose built for what you do in your job.
Okay. And Kathy is very happy, apparently, that's going to work. So thank you, Jermaine. So Tony is asking as well, will the agents be able to replace Power BI? I'm not sure.
For reporting, no. Power BI is a special one. Power BI gets into, the agents are user-based. They're specific to what you are doing in your job, just like your Copilot. Power BI looks at your data across the board as a company-wide data, and then tries to infer and provide that business intelligence that's across the entire board, all employees, so to speak, versus a single employee and their tasks. So if you think about it from scale perspective, your agent can help you to get information that you need at your level of what you have access to. Power BI would then have access to the executive level, and if you're the executive, then your Power BI would have all this access. The stuff that you would have all that access, but a user in the organization with different access to you won't have that same inference data. So Power BI by itself is an entire solution that then gets fed that data with basically its own security parameters. So it wouldn't replace it, but what it will do is help you to figure out what you should be doing with your Power BI as the owner, as the leader, as the changer of the organization. So with that, yeah, is there another question in there?
Yeah, so and this is, I guess, what Tony's trying to do is what we're all trying to do is, you have tool crawl, right? Like it's or scroll, and he's saying, can we train Copilot, for example, to replace a CRM platform? If we teach it about emails and notes and ERP and all of that stuff, I don't know, maybe in the future, but
okay. So what? And I really like this question because it's very big thinking. It's very, how can we really change the way we work? So I'm going to give you massive kudos on that one. The answer is a good one because there's something that exists in the world today, and we're going another level higher here, called Microsoft Fabric and OneLake. Now, we're not going to get into any technical stuff on this, but if you imagine that you have a giant lake. Pick one, whatever lake is facing your closest to you in your geo today. Pick that lake. You've got all the lake houses around the lake. Everyone has access to that same lake. It's the same water. It's the same information. In order for you to do the things that you're thinking about right now, you need to have one lake. You need to build lake houses, and each of the lake houses is specific to the things that you're trying to do. So you say you want to do Power BI and reason over all your data for Power BI, whether you're in shipping, logistics, medical. You can then, that one lake house would have all the structured data for that specific job type. And then you can do things like have Power BI, use Copilot to tell Power BI what you want, and it'll give you your forecast, it'll give you your history, it'll give you recommendations on what to fill your stock rooms with. All of that's possible, but you have to go one level above. Right now we're in Microsoft 365. This is it. You're using agents and Copilot. But to get to that level, that enterprise large level of thinking, you need to create that one lake and then build all the houses around it. And each of the houses will do the things that you want, but you have to have that centralized data. So you'd have to get rid of all the external add-ons, the data center, the ERP. You have to bring all that data into one place, which we can do with Fabric, and then turn that now into reasonable data for AI to use. And then you can do all the things you just said. Give me customer stats. How many tickets did that person have? How many times did we have complaints about this product? You can do all of that from that space now. But it just requires one more step above. This is the here and now today. That one's more of a, well, we have to do a proper lift and shift and organize, which then brings into data governance into place. And that actually ties us right into Copilot Studio, because when you think about it, that's what you'd be doing. You'd be building a specific lakehouse of data that has information that does a thing that you want it to do in that sense. And it replaces the old way that you used to work.
That was quite clear and detailed. Thank you. Awesome. Okay.
It's a good thing Ontario and the wider provinces have lakes everywhere. It's all good. We can explain things with
we
lakes.
all understand.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got 10 exciting more minutes to go here. So yeah, let's see what else we can engage our happy.
Yeah, so we have one more quick voiceover, if you would kindly here. So this is really quickly around the agent builder in chat. Like Jermaine was saying, how easy it is to go about doing this ourselves.
Yeah. So Kathy, here's the exciting part for you and for everyone else on here. Check this out. This is what I mean about you don't need to be technical to do it. So let's say you want to create an agent. The button's right there. You say, hey, Mr. Copilot, I would like to build a field service agent. Well, I needed to do step-by-step things. You hit go. It might have stopped. Yeah, you hit go. It sends the information to the agent and says, okay, not a problem. Here's what I can do for you. What do I need? It asks for some more information. You say, great, I have what I need. Let's configure this. So you've described it. You click the configure tab. It configures itself. It asks you, do you want to tie in your ERP? So as the example here, I'm not saying it's limited to Dynamics, but you turn on the Dynamics information in the ERP, and then you say, great, let's go click create. And it says, great, here's your agent. Just so you're aware, people in your organization may not have access to some of the SharePoint resources. So this comes back to your security. Depending on who's building that agent, you may not be able to see it. When a user tries to query that agent, they may not be able to see the same data you see. So keep that in mind from a security perspective. But in that 35 seconds slow-mo video there, we built an agent that did something that tied into ERP. So real quick, right now, if you have Copilot and you open that Copilot dashboard, you'll see that create an agent button on the right. You click on it and you can do everything that just happened there. I want to build an agent that writes blog posts in the voice of, name your favorite blogger, and you give it the information. You tell it, I want you to pull information for the blogs from our Dynamics or our ERP or our SharePoint folder. Here's the folders, the location. You hit go. It asks you any questions it needs, and then you hit create. And then you test it out. Like, okay, great, I need a blog post for this week on this topic. Go. and it'll build it out for you. And then you say, okay, now I have the blog post. Do I like it? Do I not like it? Let me edit it. Well, you just built an agent in 30 seconds or less. Just depends on how fast you can type.
Then it's going to be a slow go for me, I can tell you that. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's push on hard. So all of that, when we think about your business now, as an individual, as a contributor, as the owner in your organization, you're excited about this now. You've seen some stuff that it can do, and what you want to be able to do now is to take that and turn it into in your business. Look at your business and see, well, where can I actually use this? And this will look pretty familiar, because when you think about how it'll empower you, I just told you that, 2 years ago, if you wanted to build something, you'd have to either find some specialized people to do it, or you'd have to, do a lot of finagling to get it to do what you want. Today, there's a whole lot less of that, and it's enabling you now to take the precious time that you have and use that to increase your revenue, optimize your costs, and help your employees to thrive. Because how do you increase your revenues? You do more with what you have today. And if you have more time and your employees are thriving because they have access to this technology that can support their workday, you then are now optimizing your costs, because your most expensive cost in your business is your headcount. And then based on that, if your same current headcount can be developed, it means you don't need additional headcount, which means that you can service more of your clients, which then equals increased revenue. So you're scaling your company without increasing your bottom line costs. So very important there from an AI perspective. And then when we look at it across job functions now, when we kind of go through and we look at how do I figure out who am I going to start with or what I'm going to do? Well, this is by no means every business, but when you think about your business and what you have in your business today, you've got some form of sales or customer service department, you've got your finance, HR and finance might be one department, so that person will be very happy if they can do 2 things with the AI to support the work that they do. You've got your customer service, you've got your legal, and when you think about it by function now, because now you have to figure out, well, what are those people doing in those jobs that AI can help with? So why don't we take a quick look at that and say, well, I'm in marketing, I need to pull customer insights, I need to do some demand generation, I've got to build content, I've got to do personalization for emails, to do customer retention, all these things. That's what I do in marketing. What I do in legal, in HR. I love the HR one because the HR one has so much potential. I used to hire people all the time, but I'd read the resumes that came in, and my eyeballs would go side to side, up and down, and I'd be like, I'm tired, I can't read any more resumes. Now, what I do is, instead of reading resumes, I write a right fit profile for the person I'm looking for. And then I say, okay, AI, here's what I'm looking for. Can you go read all 1,500 resumes and then bring me the top 10 profiles that match this description that I've given you? So then AI goes through all of it, and it can definitely read faster than we can. And it brings me back the top 10 resumes. Now I'm going to fact check that, of course. And if I fact check that and say, okay, this looks good, then those are my top 10. I'm not reading the other 1,490. So now AI has done something for me that will allow me to now spend more time getting the right candidate into the seat. Now, if we think about it from a key performance indicators function, so as you think about, okay, well, that's all fun and games and really nice, Jermaine, but how is that going to help with the actual KPIs that the team needs to deliver on? Well, let's figure this out. If you're in HR or you're in sales and you say, well, I just spent 6 hours in meetings, and every customer that I've spoken to already has their AI notes, their follow-up and everything at the end of that day, that means you're shortening the window between when that customer is going to come back post that conversation. You're shortening that window, you're shortening the time to win rate, and you're shortening the time that it takes information to go back and forth. Customer retention. If you set up an AI agent that reaches out to your customers on their birthdays, reminds you, reaches out to them, sets up a call, sets up a lunch, you go out with that very important customer, just think about that for a second. You have something that's following it and it keeps you in check, which then makes you look really amazing. And trust me, you can use this for home life as well, not just work. If you're that person that goes to work and forgets that it was your daughter's birthday today and you didn't get the cake, the AI is going to be like, hey, James, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You need to pick up a cake. Excellent. Why am I picking this up? Oh, yeah, it's a birthday. Let's go. And just think about that from a customer retention, family friend retention perspective. It makes good sense to help. So it does a lot within your business. And then you may even find that some of your KPIs don't make sense from the current job that the person has. So you would want to reevaluate that. And then you say, okay, AI, help me to rebuild this. So very important there in your business. How are we looking on the Q&A side, Maria?
Oh, well, we have a good question from Dave, and he asked me specifically, and Dave, I'm really not the subject matter expert here, but we do have 2 experts, so let's see. So the question is about how Copilot might tap into overshared files or folders within OneDrive or SharePoint. What do you recommend to avoid this situation?
So that's a great question. From a security perspective, you need to have in place your security configuration on files for tagging and identifying sensitive files, sensitive data. So even if someone takes the file from today, you can tag a file all the way to an external USB drive. And when someone puts the information on that drive, they go away, they plug it in somewhere else and they try to open it, but you've removed their access to the company, or they're trying to access it on a non-compliant computer that is not within your Intune or your within your security management, the file won't open for them. So in order to prevent the overshare, accidental share, you are actually required to put in your email to access the file. So it happened to me just yesterday. I sent a presentation link out to a partner. The partner came back and said, hey, I put my email in. It asked for an email. I put my email in and it said, you have no access. This does not allow you to access this file. Now that's an accidental, let's consider that was an accidental share. I sent an email with a document to a partner. It was wrong partner, but the email that was associated with the share was in a different organization or a different domain. And because of that, when that person was prompted to put in the security feature of identifying themselves, they don't know who has access. So when they put in their own domain, their domain doesn't have access. Now, that was an accident because I sent it to all the people who had access already and shared the link, where I should have said, anyone who receives this email from me with this email domain can now access that file. So I changed my permissions on my side and I resent the file. So that's how we deal with that. And that's across the board. And that's from a business premium compliance perspective that you can configure to ensure that you're tagging that data.
Excellent. Okay, so I see James, you skipped right to the end because we are at 2:15. Just wanted to say thank you, first of all, everybody, for sticking with us for the last hour. There was some really great stuff. Thank you very much, James and Jermaine. Some really good questions, some really good answers as well. So with that, just want to say thank you for joining us today. We encourage you to download the ebook. I've put the link in the chat. We had some issues with the links this morning, so hopefully it works this time. And so yeah, we encourage you to download the ebook and talk to your local MicroAge with any other questions that you might have after today's webinar. Speaking of webinars, our next webinar is scheduled for April 10th, and as a follow-up to this webinar, we'll focus on what a successful Copilot deployment looks like. So keep an eye on your emails and our social media channels for the invite, and we look forward, hopefully, to seeing you again next month. And with that, once again, thank you so much, James and Jermaine. Really appreciate it, and thanks to all of you. Yeah, thanks to all of you for spending time with us today, and we wish you all a great rest of the day.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.